So I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to Denby Dale Amateur Radio Club and our regular weekly online meetings with speakers. Tonight, I'm really pleased to welcome Ben, G4BXD, who's going to talk to us tonight about the Military Wireless Museum. And I'm sure Ben will make reference to this during his talk, but they have got a lovely website with more information about their collections and what they've got down there. And as I said in the opening information we sent out to people publicly about our meeting tonight, Ben's collection and the Military Wireless Museum is not just British military wirelesses that many of us have owned at some stage or another or may still do, but military wireless from other parts of the globe as well, the US and Europe and Japan and so on. So Ben, I'm going to hand the microphone over to you and you give your talk. So welcome, Ben.
Yes, okay, lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Right, how do I get me on the screen? We go to share screen, I believe, do we? Yes, we go to this, we go to share, and how do I get that to go to full screen?
You hit slides, you hit that on the left-hand side, underneath slide, it's got from beginning.
Yeah.
That.
There we go. Right, okay. I think we're broadcasting a picture of the door of the museum, I think, anyway. Yeah, okay, lovely. Very good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting me and having us here. Military Wireless Museum, it's my collection of 50 years, basically, and it started out as most people did back in the very late 60s and early 70s. Military radios were cheap. We bought them, we played with them, we cut them to pieces, and we found out how things worked and or didn't work, as the case may be. And over the years, we went to rallies. Of course, you pick up this, you pick up that, and it got to the point where basically our old terraced house was basically full. So we had them in the basement, we had them in one of the bedrooms, we had them in the attic. I had a big shed outside that was full. 2 more sheds in the garden, they were full, and people were saying, oh, can we come and look at the collection? And I'd say, well, yes, basically you can come and look at the collection, but all you'll ever see is the things at the front. You won't see the things at the back. So it went on and on and on for a long time, and I thought, well, fair enough, we better try and do something. So we bought another house. This is where collecting gets to the point where you have to sort of wonder, really. I bought another house that had a building in the garden, so no sheds or old barns. We looked at a number of places with barns, but of course they would have required so much messing about anyway. So we ended up with buying another house, different location, higher up, of course, obviously higher up. In altitude, that is, or height above sea level. And we had another building in the garden. And when we looked at the house, I looked at it because the building was empty. And I thought, my God, this is lovely. It's huge, wonderful, super. And Madam said, do you think it's big enough? And I said, yes. Of course it's big enough. Anyway, so we bought the property. And then we obviously had to move. So we started to move, and that's one of the rooms. That's one of the rooms in the museum as it started out, and you can see that it's got quite a few boxes. Basically, it took us 4 weeks to move the radios, and it took us 2 days to move the house contents. So that was quite interesting. That was one of the rooms in the bungalow. That was one of the rooms in the house. That was the front. That was the front living room in the house. And as you can see, a lot of boxes. A few more boxes there. There's a bit of racking. Luckily, we had a connection to Halfords, and they were closing down a couple of stores, and the son-in-law said, did I want the racking? And I said, oh yeah, yes, good. And this was long before this building was purchased. So the racking had laid wrapped up in tarpaulins at the top of the old garden for several years. And of course, when we finally moved, I straight away I thought, we've got the racking. So the bit of racking went up, and things started to get moved off the floor onto the shelves. At this stage, of course, it was basically get it off the floor and put it on a shelf. So it all just got stuck on a shelf, a corner here, a corner there, and we started moving it all around and putting it up on the shelves in any old order. No real thought about it to start with. So as you can see, piles of Eddistone's side on and lots of other radios and whatever you all piled up. And slowly, bit by bit, of course, we started to get organized. And on the left-hand side, as you're looking at it, all the blue sets are Navy sets, so they're British Royal Navy sets. Obviously, some will be recognizable to many. CR100, CR150, and so on and so forth. The ones that are a little bit looking worn, those are early pre-war, early war sets, and the top middle row, the left-hand one by the English flag, that's been restored. That's fine. The next one to it, that's a waiting restoration. The wave meter next to the HRO, that's been restored. That's lovely. And the big tatty blue one beneath, that's a waiting restoration, but it's 93 pounds in weight, so it's not something you can manhandle easily. So we're building up to restore that one, and that's will be an ongoing project. Top right, it's a few of the man packs, the second shelf from the top. You've got 68 set, 18 set, 68 set, 48 set, which is the American version of the 18 set, Teco, which is a South African, so there you go, Ted, South African version of the 18 set. Not very clear in the dark picture, but that's next one to it's the American Code Talkers radio, and then the one on the right with a little orange panel, frequency chart panel, that's a Russian one, and then a few more British ones underneath, and a few more Navy sets and what have you. Picture below, again, a little bit of a hodgepodge because things have just been put on a shelf, and slowly, bit by bit, things are starting to get reorganized. So the bottom right-hand picture's got the top right-hand corner, that's a Hellschreiber. That's a German, like a teleprinter type set, but it sends signal, it sends its information out in tones, so a couple of tones warbling away, like RTTY, but it has the nice attribute that it prints out on a ticker tape. Down the side here, it prints out on a ticker tape, and you can read the message. So it's still it's used today, but of course many people just use the computer today, not this old-fashioned bits and pieces. So a few things started getting sorted out on shelves, and then we have a few more shelves, and all these on the left-hand side, these are all Japanese, as was said about other than British sets. These are all Japanese wartime sets, and primarily, of course, they've all been acquired from America, because if you think about it, the main influence of the Japanese war was, of course, on the Pacific side of the world. So the Americans were the major sort of combatants, and of course, a lot of GIs, when they overran Japanese occupied islands, they would gather souvenirs and send them back home. So a lot of these sets came from America, but I'm not quite sure if you're seeing the cursor on the screen that I'm seeing, but on the top shelf, the yellowy looking radio to the right of middle, That one came from a few hundred yards away. I was on 80 meters one day, and this years and years ago, of course, many years ago, on 80 meters, and we were talking to a local chappie, and all very, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And I happened to mention that my interest was in military radios. Ah, he said, I have some military radios in my shed. I said, oh, really? Okay, blah, blah, blah. And he said, yes, come round and have a look. I said, okay, fine. So we walked round, so you can tell how close it was. I walked round to the lovely chap, X-Royal Signals. Went all the way through the war. Went in with a BEF 39. Excuse me. Went in with the BEF in 39 and went all the way through the war. Ended up went down through Africa, up to Sicily, up to Italy, and ended the war in Italy. Not a scratch. So amazing, isn't it? And anyway, so we went in this shed because we went down the garden and whatever, and he unlocked this shed, and there was that beautiful damp aroma of something that's not been opened for many years. I thought, oh dear, there's not going to be much in here, sort of thing. Anyway, so, and it was all piled up inside. I mean, literally, it wasn't on a shelf or bench, or it was just piled up. And he said, well, I'm not quite sure what we've got. Anyway, I had a little rummage around, and right at the back, I could see these little knobs and whatever, which I kind of recognised. I said, what's that at the back? Anyway, he climbed over, bang, crash, tinkle, bits falling everywhere, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, he was getting on then. And unfortunately, he's passed away now, but he was getting on, in age then. And I said, oh yeah, be careful, sort of thing. And anyway, he climbed over this stuff, and he pulled this this set out from the back, the one that's next to the bottle on the left-hand side of the bottle of wine there, the yellow-looking one, and he pulled it out. And I said, "My God!" I said, "Jack, this is Japanese, wartime Japanese." He said, "Oh, no idea." He said, "Somebody gave it me years ago." He said, "Do you want it?" Yeah, do you want? Yeah, I said, well, if you don't want it, Jack, yes, I'd love to have it, thank you. So that one came from just a few hundred yards away. So mainly the rest of them came from America, with the exception again of the middle one on the top shelf, the light silvery one on the upper shelf there, with the plug-in coil. It's the Japanese version of an HRO, and it's got plug-in coils and whatever. And it's also got the facility whereby it's got plug-in IF cans. So it's got different IF frequencies. So the low bands, you plug a low frequency set of IF cans in, and for the high bands, you plug a set of high frequency IF cans in. And that one came from Japan. that one came from Japan. A friend of ours came over. A Japanese friend came over. And he said, I have a radio. Actually, he said, I have a radio. So he said, do you want me to bring that? I said, yes, by all means. So he brought that on the airplane from Japan. And we then had several days together down in London. 1 second. So I said, well, how much do you want for it? And he said, and a lot of money, sort of thing. I said, oh, we will think about it. And I had this little secret what's the word, a benefit of a little secret knowledge that the Japanese don't like to say the word no. So he said so much. I said, oh, okay, we'll have a think about it. So anyway, next day I made him a slightly cheaper offer. I said, how about so much for the set? I said, anyway, so the next day I said, well, how about a slightly lower value? And of course they say the Japanese do not like to say the word no. They think it's very bad in their culture to say no. And anyway, so when I took him back to the airport on the last day he was over here, I said, now about this radio. And I made him a very cheeky offer, and of course yes, okay. So we got it for a very good price, and bless him, he did do a very good deal. But it since cost me, because I acted as his UK agent, so I had to get. He would telex me and say, "Oh, I need this, that, and the other," and I'd have to acquire it and parcel it up and send it off and whatever. I mean, he did pay for it, but it was a lot of messing about. So I did end up paying for it in the end. But there we go. Top right is again just a various collection of sets. You notice on the bottom shelf on the towards the centre, the very big. It looks like an Eddystone. It looks like an Eddystone. It sounds like an Eddystone. It works like an Eddystone. So it probably is an Eddystone. It's an S700, which is a very big thing. For a very simple set, it's single conversion. I think it's 8 valves in there, I think. But it's a huge giant set made by Eddystone for the IMRC shipping company. And the Queen Mary, the one that's in Long Beach, that was in their radio room when they finished their passenger transporting and whatever you, and before they became a museum. So that's sitting in their that's sitting on the shelf in their radio room on the Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary, is it? Queen Elizabeth, whatever, the one in Long Beach. And I when I was doing an article about it for PW, I emailed the Long Beach Radio Club and said, could they take a photograph of it for me, which they did, but they took it on a mobile phone, so of course it wasn't good enough for production. And so I had to email back saying, thank you very much, but it's not good enough quality wise. Can you do it again? And is yours working? And they said, well, no. I said, we don't have anybody in the club that's able to repair it. So the Long Beach Amateur Radio Club didn't have anybody in their club who was able to repair an 8-valve super heterodyne receiver. So I did offer, of course, to go over. I said, if you'd like to pay my airfare, I'll come over and get it working for you. But for some reason, they didn't take me up on that offer. I'm not quite sure why, but there we go. And the bottom picture is what the operating bench looked like at some stage. And you'll see the GB0MWM, Golf Bravo 0 Military Wireless Museum is the special event station that we have for the radio club on the museum. So right, we have a picture of the spy set room. I have a lot of spy set radios and clandestine sets. The cabinets, the glass cabinets on the left, the top ones are the black ones are American, and below that there's a brownie looking one that's British, and the one just in front is a British Paraset, SOE and the like. And just to the right of the glass cabinet, again SOE sets, and below that a Mark 123, the blue brick of SAS fame and embassies abroad and this sort of thing. They would keep one as an emergency transmitter. And then a few other bits and pieces. The top right picture has got a few more. Unfortunately, the one with the top row left is got a bit of flash reflection there. That's a Tinkerbox, a Mark III, and a 5G transmitter. The red thing, the red box next to it. One of those was used in the Antarctic on one of the Antarctic expeditions, apparently. So very good. And then a few other sets. On the right-hand side of the top right picture is a Russian spy set, and then a couple of test sets, and of course the bottom right picture is of the infamous B2. Of course, everybody and their dog has got a B2, of course, over the years. we've all had them, and I hate to think how many we've got in the museum at the moment. A few Eddystones, although not military, well, to some extent not military. The military did use several Eddystones. 730, of course, was used by the military, and the bottom left hand, the left hand picture, the bottom left hand corner through the 358, of course, was used by the Navy during the Second World War. So a few Eddystones, but that's I can assure you that's grown tremendously. This is an early picture, and then on the right hand side, the big thing in the just to the left of the rack, that's a 53 set. That's before restoration. I really should have put a better picture up there. That one's before restoration. So this the dark grey panel around the tuning knobs, that's gone. Some radio amateur obviously thought he could do better than the designers of the 53 set. The 53 set would match into anything from a 12-foot whip to a 100-foot wire. It was normally carried in the back of a 3-tonner, of course, and it would match. You could load up into anything from a whip to a very long wire or a dipole or anything basically. But some amateur, in his ultimate wisdom, decided that what it needed was a pie tank. So he'd taken out the original components and put in a pie tank arrangement, which of course I've now taken out and thrown in the bin and reinstated what it should be in the first place. So that's the primary job, of course, is to undo all the mods and put them back to what they were. And of course, everybody knows the wireless set number 19. Everybody and their dog, of course, has had a wireless set 19 over the years. Just take a little drink, and we all know what the wireless set 19 does, and how it works. We've had them. I think I had my first 19 set in the very late 60s when I had my Ben's Broadcasting Corporation. Basically, it was a corner of my dad's shed, and there's a big sign on the door saying BBC, Ben's Broadcasting Company, and a 19 set, of course, was on the bench and worked and what have you, and played with and experimented with, and all great stuff, you know. Of course, one or two people say, oh, well, of course, it's radioactive and all that, and so on and so forth. Well, it's not radioactive. It's luminous. It's not radioactive. But being luminous, of course, it doesn't mean, of course, you can operate it at night like that. So that's the front of the 19 set at night time. So if you're sat in your tank in the middle of a Libyan desert or whatever it is, or Tunisia or something, you're still going to be able to operate the set with ease, because it very nicely glows in the dark. But I do have a Geiger counter, and I have run the Geiger counter over the front. And although you get indication off it, of course, because the radiation falls off at the square of the distance, you know, it rapidly diminishes. So it doesn't really present a health hazard. Unlike the wireless set 29, which was the Canadian replacement for the 19 set, the 29 set, that is radioactive. And down at Blandford, they've got it as far away from the public as possible. And I've actually got mine on the back of a shelf at the moment, and it's wrapped in flashing LED flashing until I can decide what to do with it. Unfortunately, I can't get it. I can't really get it far enough back to be of a safe distance. So it's all wrapped up in lead at the moment, my 29 set. So we'll see what to do with that in the near future. and a few other sets, some more of the Japanese sets with some more sets below it. And then on the right hand side, on the top of the top of the left hand shelf, those are all French sets, French wartime sets. Underneath those are quite a few Russian sets, Russian aircraft, Russian tank, and so on and so forth. And just below that, the black set is an Australian set, and next to that's the green set, which is a Russian set. So there's still a little bit of reorganizing to take place, slowly, bit by bit. But the problem is, of course, if I want to move anything, so I take a radio off a shelf, I've then got to find something else which is very similar in size to go back into that space. Otherwise, it means moving a lot of other things to jiggle it all about. So it all takes time, and slowly, bit by bit, we'll get around to doing it. But it's all coming together bit by bit. And there we go. Another shot of the Navy sets in the background. On the left-hand picture, the shelves to the right on the left-hand picture, they've got again various British sets on the top, some British sets. The three little knobs on the dark black set on the second shelf down. That's a French military gendarmerie set from France, which is very nice, and came from France, obviously. One of my French friends. On the middle picture, you got the Navy sets again. Above those, the two that look very similar on the second shelf down, those are New Zealand ZC1s, ZC1 Mark 1 and ZC1 Mark 2, which were the New Zealand version of a 19 set, basically, because obviously they had difficulty getting the sets sent out there, and they had difficulty getting parts. So they made something for their own troops, and that's a ZC1 Mark 1 and a Mark 2, which took the place of the 19 set in the Australian, in the New Zealand forces. So mainly up in Burma and the Pacific and that sort of theatre. And then the right-hand picture again is a few more of the spy sets in the glass cabinet. So there's quite a few there of different countries. We've got Norwegian spy set, Swedish. Of course, there's a difference between a spy set and a special forces set. A lot of people they'll have a radio and they'll say, "Oh, I've got a spy set," and it's a special forces set, which of course special forces are different to spies in that special forces, of course, are in uniform, although they're trying to be clandestine and hide themselves away from the target. They are in uniform. I mean, the SAS wear a uniform, whereas spies, of course, are in civilian clothing and what have you. And of course, if you're captured in civilian clothing, of course, you're shot as a spy. If you're captured in military clothing, of course, you're a POW. So to most countries of the world, anyway. So there's a lot of difference between a spy set and a special forces set, but quite a few of them, of course, are of the same attributes. They're small, they're lightweight, they're easily sort of hid, and so on and so forth. So that's that. Next slide. There's a wider shot of the on the left of the one of the rooms in the museum, with a few posters and a few man packs on the floor. And the photograph on the right is another room. You can see to the in the middle of the picture is a wireless set 22, the kind of low-powered, lightweight version of a 19 set. In actual, the 22 set, the wireless set 22, I find it works far better than the 19 set. It's a lot easier to use and works very, very well indeed. And even though it's only sort of 1 watt, It's amazing what you can work on it, given the right aerial. The problem, of course, that the airborne forces had in places like Arnhem and the likes, of course, is they couldn't get the aerials out. It wasn't particularly the radio sets that didn't work. It was the fact that they couldn't get any decent aerials out. I mean, I've spoken to signalers who were at the bridge at Arnhem, and they were in the attics of the houses overlooking the bridges. They knocked holes in the roofs, knocked the tiles out to get the whip aerials out, but they couldn't get out to get any length of wire out, because every time they stuck their head out, snipers used to have a little go at them. So that was the problem. They couldn't get any decent antennas out. And of course, if you've tried working anywhere on a 12-foot whip on 80 meters, it's not going to go very far. And this is one of the problems with that sort of operation, and in many other operations, of course. It's great. I mean, I can work, or I used to work before he passed away. A friend of mine down in Bewdley. Bewdley's 3 mile away. I could run my 22 set into a 12-foot whip, and we could work down to Bewdley, 3 mile away, no problem at all. But then you start trying to work say to Worcester, which is 13 miles away, and they just couldn't hear it. So it's the difference between a long wire aerial and a short whip antenna. So obviously we'd run out of space, so the bungalow was filled. Luckily at the back of the bungalow, excuse me, at the back of the bungalow was a bit of a garden, sloping garden. So first of all, we had to dig it out. We dug it out and made it a bit flat. What looks like a pool, it's not actually a pool. The blue tarpaulin is just over the top to keep the concrete from drying out too quickly. I wish it had been a pool now, but there we go. So concrete slabs around the outside, concrete in the middle, and the blue tarpaulin was just to help keep the concrete setting slowly. And then we had a little shed dropped on top of it. So this is whatever it is, 20 foot by 10 foot wide. And I thought, oh, lovely, loads of space. Here we go, loads and loads of space to stick more stuff. So as you can see, between the left and the right picture, I managed to line the shed with insulation, and we insulated the shed and what have you, and put a floor down, rubber floor, put a few shelves up, and the back, the big shelf at the back, that was going to be my workbench. So I thought, oh, righto, there we go, nice big workbench. I made it very thick to help carry the weight of the very heavy sets. And I turned around one day, and when I turned back, the back shelf, that's that shelf there with me standing against it. And I thought, right, I'll have that for my my work surface and what have you, and jolly good. And I turned around and what have you, and when I came back into the room, suddenly all that junk had appeared on the shelf and filled the shelf up. So I lost my workbench, and I thought, right, okay, well, the best thing is we can we'll make this into the aircraft stroke airborne room. So all these radios are aircraft stroke airborne related. They all come out of airplanes or were used by airborne forces. In the middle of the picture, just below the helmeted figure, is a 62 set carried by airborne troops, and all the other sets are things out of aircraft. The bottom left-hand corner, that's a Swedish set. Going across the bottom, you've got a British 50s 18 set, of course. No, it's 68 set, I think. 68 set, 62 set. What's that called? American, not TCS, TA-12, American TA-12. Right-hand side with the thing with the two big round eyes, look like eyes. That's Australian version of the 1154-55 bomber set. So the bench got lost, and oh dear, there we go. So my idea of using that for a workbench rapidly went out the window. So that was lost. We put up some more racking. Luckily, well, I had to buy this one. This is called new racking. Right at the left-hand side is all command sets. Many of us had command sets over the year. Good old Arc 5, as they were called, and there's quite a few different ones there because each radio is single band, a single band for each radio. There's no wave change switch. So you want to change band, you change radio, and things like the B-17 and the like, they would have had racks that held either one radio, two radios, three radios, four radios. So 4 transmitters, 4 receivers. And the difference between the black ones and the silver ones, of course, is one's United States Air Force and one's United States Naval Air Force. Because at that time, the US Army Air Force, US Navy Air Force, because during the war, of course, they were separated. US Army Air Force, US Navy Air Force, and basically it's the same set. And but unfortunately, the socket on the back, which allows you to plug it into the rack, is not the same. It's a different socket on the back of the silver radio to the black radio. So you can't put a silver radio in a black rack, and you can't put a black radio in a silver rack. Well, I say that you can force it in. It's not meant to go in, but you can force it in. But that's how odd it was during the war. The Navy Air Force and the Army Air Force even requested different sockets on the back of their identical radios. Go figure. And on the right-hand side picture, you've got a few more of the bits and pieces. The coloured knobs, of course, everybody will recognise the coloured knobs as T1154, R1155, and the bottom left-hand corner of the right-hand picture, that's a NASA set, it's Nemes Clark, and they used those radios to track things like Russian satellites in the late 50s, early 60s, and basically you've got a receiver and then two converters beneath it, and that radio tunes from I think it's from about 30 or 40 megahertz up to about 900 megahertz. So it's very, very interesting. At the moment, I just use the top bit, which of course is tuned to 100.7, which is the classical channel on VHF FM, of course. So that's that. Let's go to the next one. Again, a few more in the what I call the West Wing. That's the new extension. Of course, 19 set with its amplifier to the center of the left-hand picture. To the left of the left-hand picture, TBY. TBX. Yes, can't remember. But anyway, it's just after the Marconi set, just after the war. 3-valve transmitter, 3 PT15s. One is the oscillator, one is the PA, and one is the modulator. And just to the right of that, with the two meters on the top bit and the 1 meter on the bottom, that's a 50s B46, I think it's called. And above that in green, the green set is the air transport set, AM, VHF AM, and above those the little wireless set 58s, little Canadian man packs. The yellow bag to the bottom right of the picture is the Gibson Girl. That's what it comes in. Where you get the Gibson Girl emergency transmitter. You get a canister with a kite, a collapsible kite. You get a canister with that'll make gas. You get a canister with a balloon, and that's what would be in the lifeboat. And you unpack it, and away you go, sending sending Mayday out on 500 kilohertz, of course, back in the day. And we even covered transport. On the right-hand picture, you can see the famous BSA folding bicycle. This was carried by paratroopers. This was carried on the back of paratroopers who jumped out of an airplane with this tied to their back. So parachute on the front, this tied to the back, plus their ordinary packs, plus their gun, plus the ammunition, and you jump out of an airplane. This folds in half. There's two wing nuts on the top bar and the bottom bar, and the thing folds in half. You jump out, you land on the ground, you open it out, you tighten the wing nuts, and you cycle off to the front. Amazing, absolutely amazing, isn't it? What they thought the British troops were capable of. But there we go. They even provided transport for the paratroopers. There's of course a motorcycle, the well bike. I don't have one at the moment. If anybody knows where there's one going, I would love to get an example of a well bike, a little motorcycle, petrol-engined motorcycle, which again all folds up into a drop canister, about 4 foot long by about 1.5 foot in diameter, which was parachuted down with the men. They would then open it, fold it all out, and ride off into battle. So there we go. We not only cover radios, we also cover transport in some respects. Excuse me. That's the team. That's the team. I'm the handsome one on the right, of course. My good lady in the blonde hair, and then the other two people are the son-in-law and his wife, and they're the ones that helped move everything on that big momentous occasion. So that's the team having a well-deserved break, and that's the view from the garden looking back towards the bungalow, and with the entrance to the bungalow. That's very early on. That the pole holding up the dipole that you can see there is now probably twice as high as that. So I decided the neighbours shouldn't be too frightened straight away. So it started out that high, and then it went up a little bit every now and again. So it's probably twice that high now, and poking well above the trees to the right of it. So there we go, a quick overview of the museum. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And of course, anytime anybody's in the area, we'd love to see you. We're probably closed for the winter, of course, now until probably early spring. So check the website out. There's a website. If you put in Military Wireless Museum, it should find the website. But it is there, Military Wireless Museum. Nice website, few pictures, and details of when we're going to reopen, which will probably be somewhere about April, I would think, by next year, all being well, of course. Let's not think about what could go wrong between then and now. So there we go, and I hope that's all okay. And I'm going to put it back to Nick, I think, somehow. Okay, Nick.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you very much, Ben. Fascinating talk. And before I just open it up to discussion, you've proved a law, which I think all radio amateurs know. Whatever space you decide you're going to build, however big it is, you're always going to fill it. Whether that's a 22-foot long hut, or whether it's a desk and a few racks 6 foot wide, whatever you think you're going to do, you're going to run out of space. I'm not sure whose law it was, but it definitely applies to our hobby. So thank you very much, Ben. That was brilliant. Right, who would like to pose a question to Ben? Who wants to go first?
Oh God,
yes, Roger. I've got Roger first.
Yeah, hi Ben. Thanks very much. That was interesting. 2 questions really. Well, 3 questions. How many radios have you got in total? Because it was hard to count. What percentage of them are working, and how long does it take to dust all that lot?
Yes, okay. Yeah. Was it Roger? Yes, okay, Roger. Well, the last count it was 1,500. Last count it was 1,500, but that was some time ago. So it's amazing, really, how many there are. And working when I get a new radio, if it doesn't work, I try and get it working. I might get it working, but of course, not all military radios cover amateur band. So although I get them working, there are some radios that I can't, if you like, test on air. I always like to try them out on on 80 meters or whatever, AM or CW or whatever they do. But occasionally, of course, one or two of them they don't cover an amateur band. So if they receive, well, we can receive. If they transmit, we can only test them into a dummy load. And dusting. Yeah, that reminds me. Yes, I haven't dusted now for 20 months. So before we open in April, I shall have to get the vacuum out. Roger, many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anyone else with a question to Ben? Yes, go on, Gerald. You're on mute, Gerald. Need to unmute, Gerald.
Hello. Hello.
Gerald, you need
Sorry
to.
for the delay. Yeah, sorry for the delay, Nick. The screen came blank from Windows because I accidentally knocked a button on the computer. Right, now I've cleared it up. Ben, thank you very much. That brought back some very happy memories of some of the radios I've had. First was an HT11B Alicrafters, which was when I first got my license. So that was the earliest one. But later I went mobile and I managed to acquire one of those ZC1s, which you showed me. That was a terrific memory. So really pleased to see that on. And I used to use it on top band. It didn't cover top band when I got it. You had to modify it to make it do top band. And then later on, I got a big receiver. It's called a BC1147. Have you got one of those? A bit like a BC348, but a lot bigger. So I wonder if you had any of them. But really terrific looking at it. Thank you a great deal for letting us see all that museum. Can't wait to come and see it in person, so to speak.
Yes, okay. Excuse me. And okay, on the ZC1. Yes, I mean they're a lovely set. I mean they really are. They're very, very nicely made. Unfortunately, of course, nowadays, well, I mean, even sort of back in the sort of 80s, 70s, 80s, of course, many of them, of course, had been through the hands of a radio amateur. And of course, we all know what radio amateurs do. I can make this set better. Yes, I can. I don't like the way this PA works. I'm going to rip all this out, and I'm going to stick a pi tank. So over the years, of course, many have suffered. It's very, very difficult to find one that hasn't been got at. Luckily, the two that I've got, the ZC1 Mark II, which is the more common one, that had its PA output changed, but luckily I had all the bits, so we ripped out all the mods and put it back to what it should be. So that was nice. And then the ZC1 Mark I, which of course is single band. The Mark II is two band. The ZC1 Mark I is a single band. That one came pretty intact, so we were lucky as far as that goes. But they are lovely sets, and I mean they're a joy to work. They're much easier than the 19 set to work. But of course many people, of course, started out with 19 sets, so of course they swear by them. But that's fine. What was the other one you said? The R11, what was it? 47.
Yeah. A bit like BC348, but a lot larger.
11. I'm trying to think. 1147 rings a bell. Of course, I mean, as I said previously, with 1,500 sets plus, it every now and again you have a mental blank as to numbers. So there's probably one somewhere, I mean. But when you come down, you can have a look and see if you can find it. Okay. Yeah,
it's fine. And yeah, the only mod we did, if it was the 2-band version of the ZC1, and it wouldn't cover top band. It went down to 2 megs upwards.
Yeah.
So the 80 meter band was covered, but the band above it, we put big fat capacitors on across the tuned circuits to pull it down to 160 meters. So it was easy mod to take them off again afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, most people did that because obviously there's very little stuff on 160 at the time. So, I mean, a lot of people modified 19 sets because they started 2 meg. So you know, you say you just retweak it and away you go. But yeah, very good. I'm glad you know what we're talking about.
Oh yes.
Thank you, Gerald. I've got Mike, G4GUG.
Hi, Ben. I have visited you there back a couple of 3 years ago, and you were talking about the well bike. I'm just trying to think of, are you thinking of the Corgi? Excelsior Corgi was the transportable motorbike. And also the other question, I know people don't like to make comparison, but in terms of engineering quality, can you sort of grade American, British, Japanese, and so on and so forth?
Yes, okay. Sorry, what was the name? Oh, Mike. Yeah, that's on the screen. Sorry. Okay, Mike. But no, the well bike was the original one, and then Corgi made a copy. So the Corgi, if you like, is the civilian version, and the well bike is the military version. But they're very similar. I mean, you know, there probably are quite significant differences, but you look at them and they're both the same. Little tiny wheels, little tiny seat, little tiny engine, little pull-up handlebars. So they look exactly the same, but they are two distinct beings. What was the other thing? Oh, the build quality. Well, I mean, because a lot of people used to say, "Oh, well, I prefer American sets because they're much better made." Well, of course they're much better made. They weren't being bombed night and day into oblivion. They weren't having to work, you know, in air raids and this, that, and the other, and without food and so on and so forth. So of course all the radios that were built in America were built by very happy people who were, you know, going to and from work every day and you know, having no air raid sirens and having plenty of sleep and plenty of food. So yes, the American ones are very nicely built. Obviously, the British ones, they served their purpose. They were built. They served their purpose. They worked. They worked in airplanes. They worked in tanks. They worked on the back of paratroopers. You know, they did the job. They weren't supposed to survive for very long. I mean, a Lancaster was what, you know, 30 hours, something ridiculous like that. You know, an infantryman with a radio on his back was, you know, 2 or 3 weeks or something. You know, tank and so on and so forth. So they weren't designed to last very long. So the American ones, yes, they're better made, obviously. They're better resources. The Japanese ones are rather odd because, considering the Japanese theatre of operations, which is, you know, mainly tropical, you know, sort of rainforest, you know, wet climates, jungles, Burma and all this malarkey, none of the Japanese sets I've got are what you would call tropicalized. They're not waterproofed. The British tropicalized their sets, so they take an 18 set and they paint it all over in shellac, lacquer, if you like. They paint it all over. Inside they paint the coils in lacquer. They paint the components in lacquer. They paint the capacitor. They wrap the capacitors in some sort of protective cover, so on and so forth, to stop the ingress of moisture. None of the Japanese sets have got anything like that. Their coils are all wound with cotton covered wire. The capacitors are all open. The resistors are all open. There's no attempt at waterproofing or damp proofing or anything like that. So, because you must remember, of course, the Japanese didn't rely upon radio like we did. We and the Americans thought that radio would play an important part. So you gave a platoon a radio, off they went. They got to the front. If they succeeded, they'd radio back, okay, come, you know, the rest of you can come along. If they didn't succeed, they could call back and say, look, we've been pushed back, we're withdrawing or whatever. And the commanders would have a good picture pretty quickly. The Japanese had a different system. The Japanese officer told the subordinate officer, okay, you will take that hill. And basically if that officer didn't take that hill, he didn't need to bother coming back, because coming back wasn't an option. Basically, they were told to do something and they were expected to go and do it. So this thought about having a radio message coming back and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we weren't able to take the hill. We're on our way back," that wouldn't have gone down very well with the Japanese military. So they didn't rely upon their radios like we did. And then the German ones, of course, are totally over-engineered. Yeah, Vorsprung Dork technique and all that. They are totally over-engineered. The German sets have got die-cast cases. They've got they've not only got different compartments, they've got holes that go through the die-cast from one compartment to another where the wire passes through. They must have spent a fortune in making the cases, whereas we could knock out a 19 set hand wired from point to point in whatever it took. Let's say it took I don't know how long it took to make a 19 set. A week maybe for one person to wire up a 19 set. The German sets with their die-cast cases, and it really is, it's high technology. It's very, very good, which is part of their downfall, because they couldn't make enough of them fast enough. And if you look on certain sets, I mean, I've got several of the German infantry sets, and the early ones have got meters. The later ones don't have meters. They have a blanking plate over where the meter went, because they weren't able to get the meters. They weren't able to make the meters. They weren't able to procure the meters. So they just did away with the meters, and there's a little blanking plate over the top where the hole in the case was, where the meter went. So towards the end of the war, of course, they started running short of things. So they made sort of slight modifications, but they were totally over-engineered. So engineering-wise, Germany, then America, then Britain, and then Japan, I think. How about that?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ben. I've got a question in the chat that's been posed by G4BXD, who asks, where do you find the spares to fix your radios?
I've got my valve store has probably got several thousand valves in. I will never use all the valves that I've got. And basically, over the years, of course, whenever we've been to rallies or the like, we've picked up valves, and I've got the attic of the bungalow. So where the museum is, the attic of the museum is the valve store, and there are boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of valves up there. And component-wise, well, I mean, we can still get resistors, of course, and capacitors, so we're okay for that to some extent. But certainly valve-wise, we're pretty well covered for, well, my lifetime at least.
Thank you, Ben. I've got Kevin, G1FYS. Kevin, you got your hand up? You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Are we there now?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thanks. Thanks, Ben. Absolutely super talk. Unfortunately, I didn't get in right at the beginning. I'd forgotten it was Wednesday. But anyhow, I noticed that you mentioned a 29 set. Now, is that the same set as a Canadian 9?
No, Kevin. I think the clue is probably in the number 20 in front of it. So the number 9 set is the same as well, not the same. It's the forerunner to the 52 set. So the 9 set is big. It goes in a truck. It's a big receiver, a big transmitter, and a block in the middle with the dynamotor and control. A wireless set number 29 is the what the Canadians thought they could improve the 19 set as, and basically it's similar size to a 19 set, but it's much more complicated. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but a 19 set has got something like about, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 valves, 11 valves. A wireless set 29 has got something like about 30 valves in it, and it really is complicated. It's got lots of interconnecting, locking, blah blahs. But its main problem is the front is is radioactive. It gives off more radiation than you can find in Hiroshima today. So it's a bit of a problem set, the 29 set. Kevin, over.
Yes, yes, okay. Thanks for that, Ben. No, the reason I'm I'm asking, my father was involved with in D-Day, and just before they went over, he was a wireless operator in a white scout car that went over on, as I say, on D-Day, and he always mentioned this radio called the Canadian 9. And I inquired up at Catterick a few years ago to see if they'd got a Canadian 9, but they didn't have one. But I found out that they had one down at Blandford. So we shot down to Blandford. Unfortunately, when we got there, the place was closed, which, but there was a gentleman down there, and I can't remember his name. And he let us in because so my father could have a look at this radio. And all the thing I can remember about it is the transmitting valve. I've never seen one as big. It was like as big as a vacuum flask. And I don't know how many watts output it was, but I know I know unofficially he could virtually work the world on it. But anyhow, that's another story. When he landed, he was actually the scout car was actually the radio operator for an American airborne group. They parachuted out, and then they met up. This was obviously to make sure that they didn't have problems like they had previously, where the radios couldn't talk to each other. Or as you said, couldn't put a big enough aerial out. So that's the story from my end, Ben. Over.
Yes, okay, Kevin. Yeah, well, I mean, probably the number 9 set. It's a very big set, though. I was surprised if your relation was in a scout car. It's quite a big set. It's a mighty big set. But anyway, I mean, it could be. I mean, obviously, you ought to know what he was using. But yeah, so wireless set 9. Was early war. The wireless set 29 didn't come in until about 44, 45, and so it wouldn't have been that on the 29, but certainly the 9 set. And the PA bottle's an 813. It's a big transmitting tube sort of thing, and it's as you say, 100 watt plus or whatever, depending upon the voltage. So it would have been quite a potent signal. The 53 set. That was that big thing in the big tall rack set. 53 set's got a pair of 813s in, so that runs 250 watt. That's a 6v6. That's a little 6v6. Whoever's circling that diagram at the moment. 5 watts, that is. An 813 is about 10 times the size of that. So so there we go, Kevin. The 9 was in use early on in the war, and then it got changed to the 52 set, which was the later updated version, if you like, Kevin. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Ben. As I say, it was I kept hearing about this number 9 set and this Canadian 9. I just anyhow. So it was nice just to be able to go down and actually see this radio. Once he spotted it, that were it.
Unfortunately, a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, I was at a show and somebody said, "You collect radios, don't you?" I said, "Well, yes, yeah." He said, "I got this wireless set number 9. Are you interested?" I said, "Well, yes, obviously," sort of thing. I said, "How much you want for it?" I said, "Is it complete?" "Oh, yes, it's complete." I said, "How much you want for it?" He said, "I want £700. And this was quite a few years ago, and £700 is a lot of money. Basically, I'd give him £700 tomorrow for it, if I could find one. So whoever asked which set I'm looking after or looking for, yes, a wireless set number 9 would be nice. But it's one of those things, yeah, there weren't very many over here, and there weren't very many that survived in one piece. So there we go.
That's lovely. Yeah, I did photograph this one, and it was really nice that they let me and my father in to have a look around, and we weren't guided at all. We just let us go straight in. So there we go.
Lovely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Ben. Right. Anyone else with a question to Ben? I don't see you straight away. Unmute and fire away. Yes, Colin, M0DUK. You need to unmute.
Hi, I've got really bad audio, Ben. Thank you very much. That was a really, really brilliant talk and very precious work that you've done there, putting all those sets together. I have a little, I think it's called the Magnolia, which is a P123 Russian set, which I plucked out of a Russian T62 in G2 in Iraq. Unfortunately, I didn't pluck out the power supply or the headset. Is it difficult to get the B27 power supply and the headset for that particular radio, Ben?
Hello, Colin. Well, I wouldn't have thought so, because the Russians, they made lots and lots and lots of radios. There's lots of stuff, and of course, since the wall came down and sort of the USSR folded or whatever, there's a lot of it on available on the web. If you want to send me an email with the number, I've got 1 or 2 Russian friends. I'll ask them. But it's amazing because although these things were Russian, of course, when the com block was in full swing, of course, nearly all the satellite countries, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Albania, was Albania part of it? Anyway, all the com block countries, of course, they all had the same radios. And of course, as soon as it all collapsed, of course, the first thing they did was all the people went and raided the local army stores and pulled out all the radio and flogged it all off. So there's a hell of a lot of Russian radio stuff available. So my suggestion would be yes, you could probably get it. It's just a matter of being talking to the right person at the right time. But if you want to send me an email, I'll ask my Russian friends, if you want to call them my comrades, and we'll we can see if we can find them.
Thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed for a great talk. Thank you.
Cheers, all the best.
Lovely. Thank you, Colin. Anyone else with a question to Ben? Looking around the room.
That's enough.
Yeah, we exhausted questions. Final call for everybody. One question was, can I ask Ben, what's the one radio he hasn't got that he might like to get?
Well, as I said, Nick, when I was talking about the 9,
The 9 set, yeah.
9 would be nice. It's very.
Mike put to me the BC 610, which was that high power transmitter.
The only problem with the big sets, it's all very well saying that, like a BC 610 sort of thing, the ET 4336 and the wireless set 53, sorry. They're all very nice, but they're very, very heavy. This is the only problem, if you want to use them, they're a hell of a thing to move around. I mean, my 53 set. I mean, luckily, of course, you've got it's in like 3 or 4 sections. The power supplies on the bottom, then the modulator, then the driver, and then the PA stage. So it's a little bit easier to work on. But I mean, things like the ET 4336. I mean, I picked up one of those once upon a time from a house. Lovely. Concrete drive, concrete garage, no problem at all. Back the car up, tip it over, slide in the car. Great. Got home, pulled onto the grass of the back garden, finally managed to get the thing out of the boot, because there was a lip on the boot. So it took two of us with a rigged up jury crane to try and lift this thing out, slid it out the back of the car onto the ground, where it promptly sank 6 inches into the ground, and stayed there for several hours until I calmed down and stopped swearing. And then again, it took us another couple of hours to lever the thing out of the ground and move it around. So they all sound very nice. Oh, I'd love a BC 610, until you have to then sort of either work on it or move it from A to B. So they all sound very nice on paper, Nick. Over.
While you were talking there, Ben, I just checked the weight of the BC 610. It's 177 kilograms, 390 pounds. So we're all gonna struggle picking that one up, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, and final call. Any other questions to Ben before we let him go? If not, can I just thank Ben on behalf of Denby Dale for coming to give the talk tonight, and I think we all enjoyed it, and those of us that have been around a long time look at some of these radios with great affection. My first receiver was the CR100, of course, of which there were loads around. So Ben, it was fantastic to see your collection. Can we show our appreciation to Ben in another way, everyone? Thank you, Ben. I'll give you the last word, Ben.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Well, very nice to speak to you all, and say come April time, do look on the website and whatever. In a second, we're open. I'll change the status and so on and so forth. And if you can get down, do let us know. You're more than welcome anytime. I mean, it's not a million miles away. I mean, there is a chappie over in Coventry. Where Coventry's about about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, on a bad day. And every time I work him on the air, he does say, oh yes, he says, I must make an effort to come over and see you one of the days. And I say, well, if it's going to be an effort, please, don't go to any trouble. But it's not a million miles away, sort of thing. So come the summer, nice sunny day, perhaps several people get together in a car or something like that and pop down, and we'd love to see you all. So with that, a very good night, all the very best, and take care. G4BXD.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much, Ben. And someone said, can we pass on appreciation for your fantastic articles in Practical Wireless as well? So there you go.
Thank you very much.
I will read that too. All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ben. I'm just going to end the recording. So great talk, and I'm sure we'll see you down there.